Okay, good afternoon everyone and welcome to today's webinar, Packaging Your Digital Assignment Using ICTs Effectively and Selectively. This is our 13th webinar and it's a second session, which means we are having a series of ICT topics. We've done the first session the last week. The second session is for today. This is the agenda. At the same time, I would like to remind my dear participants that you need to mute yourselves so that you do not distract, make noise over the echoes that are coming to the participants. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for inviting us to this webinar.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Sees two people joining. I'm sorry, I got to admit them. Let me remind you, please, every participant needs to mute himself or herself so that they do not distract the webinar, so that they do not make echoes which are coming over the voice for the other participants. Thank you. Okay, as I've mentioned, so this is the agenda of today. We are going to see the teacher's confidence and the planning when it comes to the ICTs. We're going to see the facility overload when it comes to the change that's been put over the pedagogy, the ICT tools, the digital techniques, the web-based learning, and the digital library. It's kind of a sequence that really goes along with the first session we've had last week. So we're going to put kind of an emphasis over all what's been discussed the last week, over all what's going really to cover the importance of using ICTs in the classroom and the way it is going to be incorporated in the pedagogy as well as in the didactic strategies. I see that some people are really having problems to join, or I'm sorry, but I really need to admit everyone who comes in. Okay, seems it's well now. Perfect. Right. As Wasim mentioned in the very beginning, just because before we head over, your active participation is so important throughout the session, and you are just going to ask questions or give any detail, give any information, give any collection of your experience that you would like to share with others. Well, as I've mentioned, one of the first slides we're going to start with is really grabs my attention so many times, which is the teacher's confidence in ICT and the way the teacher they perceive this new concept, which is going to be incorporated, which is going to be working in a parallel cooperation of the process to be integrated in their classrooms, in their lessons, in their syllabus surveys. And you see, I've made kind of 4 major elements when it comes to the confidence, talking about the impact, talking about the fear, talking about the flexibility, and the compatibility. The impact of ICTs in the perspective of trusting this new concept that comes over to be incorporated in the teaching gives some limited confidence to the teacher, really, and the way they are going to lead their lessons. Few teachers are confident in using a wide range of ICTs resources, and the limited confidence that affects the way they are going to conduct their lessons makes a little bit impact of the ICT in general, talking about education. And here the impact is on both, is on the teacher and is over the training in general. It gives also kind of a lack of training, maybe lack of available resources, lack of expertise, lack of instruction as well as training. The second element is fear, actually. Many teachers, they still fear using the ICTs, and thus they are really reluctant to use them in their teaching. And here we are talking about the styles of the computer training, which are enhancing the teacher's competence and the confidence to use the ICT. Generally, back in 2004, there was a study which discovered that there are some barriers which affected the integration of ICTs in the lessons, or in the syllabus, or in the classroom. And this is a real experience, and this is a real data provided by some teachers all around the world. The first thing is actually the lack of confidence among the teacher during the integration. We are not talking about the use of the ICTs when it's already applicable, when it's already deployed, but we are talking about the process or the confidence or the lack of confidence while the ICT is being integrated to the syllabus. The lack of access to the resources. This is also one more important element that the teachers are really delighted for over getting into it, and they do not have enough resources, they do not have enough time of integration, and they lack the effective training and the way they face their technical problems. You know, the ICTs is not just opening something, a machine or a computer, a projector that you're going to use for your students, but also it really needs a way that you manage the risks, you manage the technical problems, you manage the time, you also manage the different abilities you have got in your class, like in age, like the experience, as well as the social background, if I may say. In connection to this, we talk about flexibility, and here we talk about the styles of the computer training which help to enhance the teacher's competence and the confidence to use this new ICT concept. So that the teachers would flex while teaching, to switch between objectives and to manage better their lessons and the times despite any of the circumstances which come over to their in classes. The last one is the compatibility. When I talk about compatibility, I don't want to mention only the adaptation of the teachers to this new system or to this new concept, but also the adequate time that must be given to the teachers, that must be allowed for teachers to develop some new skills, to explore their integration into this new actually concept, and also to their already existing teaching practices and the curriculum items, as well as their syllabus tempos. And the teachers here, they are going to undertake the necessary additional lesson planning for the ICTs and use them effectively. So these four elements really, it's absolutely important for the teachers to understand them, but also to know how to manage them. When we talk about the impact, is the whole impact of this new concept over the incorporation or the integration of ICTs in the classes. The second thing is the fear. When we talk about the fear of using the ICT tools, we're talking about the expertise, the training, the formation, the guidance, as well as the instruction. Flexibility, it also goes through the styles of computer trainings that the teacher gets in order to be able to use or in order to be able to flex while teaching and while switching between objectives and between sequences of the syllabus. And the compatibility, as I've mentioned, is the adequate time that needs to be allowed to the teacher, that needs to be given to them so that they develop new skills, so that they explore their integration using the already existing teaching techniques which are part of their curriculum, which are parts of their syllabus. Again, we continue on the teacher's confidence in ICT. I give you 30 seconds, everyone and every participant here, to watch over this slide and see. Of course, there are kind of some signs over. There are some keywords you need to understand. Then we carry on the discussion. Perfect. So, as I've mentioned, we're going to continue into the teachers' confidence in the ICT. But before, I would like to ask 2 or 3 questions to the dear participants who are here. What do we know about the successful pedagogical strategies utilizing the ICTs for teaching and learning? Any of the successful strategies you know so that you conduct an ICT lesson effectively, on which this lesson is going to lead you to a successful result? Any of you can answer, or any of the experiences you have done before in your collections? I repeat the question. Do you know about any successful strategy utilizing ICTs for teaching and learning effectively?
Hello?
Hello, what's your name?
Hello, everybody. Do you hear me?
Yes, we do.
Saliha from Shida.
Hi, Saleha. Go ahead, please.
So I think for a successful incorporation of ICTs into teaching learning process, I think we should put into consideration every time we are preparing our lesson the key concepts. It means we should balance between the concept, pedagogy, and the technology we are using. So they need to go hand in hand. So the teacher needs to, of course, to master the content she is going to teach, and then select the pedagogical tools that go with this prepared lesson. And the last step, the third step, is the technology that goes in harmony with these two. I mean, we cannot have a successful ICT use without, paving the way by selecting the pedagogical tools and the content. So the teacher should, at each time, respect this concept of team. I mean, these three, say, domains of
Right, right.
content, the pedagogy, and the technology. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Anyone else, please? Does anyone of you want to add something?
Hello everyone,
Hello, what's your name?
I'm Sliman Idiot from Vijaya and I'm teacher of middle school.
Lovely.
Middle school.
Thank you. Go ahead, Sliman, please.
Thank you. The use of ICTs in classroom is very important and very good for beneficial for both teacher and students.
Mm-hmm.
But the teacher, how to say it? But teacher has to choose when use it or and how use it. For
Right.
example, for example, for listening, the teacher, for example, when he uses audio file, he has to choose, for example, audio with simple English, for example, not American English,
Mm-hmm.
English
Right.
or complex, or especially for first year and second year middle school.
Absolutely, and this is really the point where I've made this drawing. Actually, I feel very kind of confident, and I feel it's very helpful when I watch it really, so that I can understand the differentiation between the CPD processes that we've learned throughout our careers, and at the same time, it gives me a clear idea what is going to be in one size and what is not going to be in 2 or 3 or many sizes.
Yes, indeed. For example, sometimes when I use the data projector, I display videos, for example, about traveling in fourth year or third year.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to the maximum to find videos with simple English and with how to say it, video with plenty of colors.
Right.
It's very attractive learners.
Absolutely. And this is one of the things we are going to see in the coming slides. Thank you so much, Sliman. Anyone else, please? You too, thank you. Okay, great. As I've mentioned before, when we see this drawing, actually when we see the line, this curved line, and we see these keywords, what comes to mind the first is the teacher's expertise in the ICT, which is a very important factor in this in a successful lesson. Let me say it in general. And the ways the teacher is going to have their or her students using the computer, using this ICT, are really going to affect the way and the level and the technicality of the expertise. So as you see, these keywords starting by survival, then it goes down to mastery, then it goes later to impact, then later to innovation. And I've even added the examples. When it comes to survival, when teachers really comes to the word of integrating the ICTs, I used to say it myself, and maybe lots of people of us here attending the webinar might have experienced the same thing. I'm scared of breaking it, and I'm not sure what to do. I think I should do this lesson, but I'm not sure how. So the teacher really is really trying to survive, or is trying to get himself allocated to this new integration process. Then later on, it goes to mastery. I've received the training. I've practiced with different applications. I've tried lessons with success, and I feel more confident. So you see the difference here from the process of surviving, of trying to survive, going to mastery process, which means that the more we give the teacher the training, the more we give instructions, the more we give guidance, the more we give resources, the more we let them do some experience, we let them experiment these tools and try to do these things they are going really to use in their class. The more they become confident, the more they become very much and smoothly allocated to this incorporation. And it goes up later to impact. Here I talk the impact in general, not only over the teachers and not only over the expertise. The students and I are using the technology effectively. The technology is embedded in my lessons, in my lesson planning, and in my lessons were appropriate. So you see, after the expertise, there comes the impact. The teacher is going to be able to know where to use technology, where to make technology effective, and how appropriate his or her lesson plans are going to be. It's all about making this sequence. It's all about understanding or following this scheme on how to do the implementation, on how to start using the text. And later on, it goes to innovation. Technology is very pervasive as we know it, and the teacher, when they become digitally literate, they're going to use, they're going to explore the world of pedagogy. They're going really to get into lots of elements, lots of types of didactics, which is going to help them innovate, which is going to help them share new information and new collections of what they are experiencing at classes. So to sum it up, the representations of software of many specialist teachers or known specialist teachers, they are very idiosyncratic. In fragmentary and transit with imperfectly learned links with false assumptions like we hear in the internet, like we see over different collections of experience, and that these teachers, they are concerned that the skills of their students are more advanced than their own. We sometimes find this. Yeah, if a teacher is not exposed to use ICTs more than his students, we find some cases that students might become more more knowledgeable. They become more literate in using the ICTs than the teacher, and this is not a problem actually. It's a little bit hard. Let's say I don't want to say it's surprising for the teachers, but it's also getting to make the teachers reluctant to go to the real meaning of experimenting, and they get concerned with the knowledge of students which is a little bit greater than their own. This makes a little bit of confusion while the teacher is doing his lessons or her lessons, while the teacher is doing some experimentation during a lesson. You find some students who are already above the level that the teacher is expecting to teach the students to, but that's absolutely normal, and it's up to the teacher, it's up to the institution to make sure that the teacher passes through this process of survival, mastery, impact, and innovation. And I would really like to hear from you, you the participants who are attending this webinar, if you have ever had a similar experience, if you've already passed by this sequence, if you had faced the problem before while started you integrating yourself, integrating your lessons with ICT. Anyone else to share with us a collection, please? Hello? Anyone wants to share something with us?
Hello?
Hello, what's your name?
Sorry, I didn't get the question well.
No, I've asked actually if anyone of, right, I've asked if anyone of the teacher here has passed through this process of integrating or incorporating the ICTs through the survival, through the mastery, through the impact, through the innovation, or any of the problems you have faced when the first time you started using ICTs in your classes. Just, we can say, an expansion of an experience.
Hello?
Hello?
Hello.
Hello, we hear you. What's your name? Go ahead, please.
I'm Samia Asadi.
Hi, Samia. Go ahead, please. Thank you.
I'm talking about ICTs in classes. It's
Hmm.
a big problem because we cannot use them since we have problems sometimes with data protection.
Right.
We have also problems with technology. We do not master everything concerning techniques, how to use computers, elements.
Right. Mm-hmm.
This is why I think these are the problems that we face when we are in classes.
Absolutely. And this really goes or comes over to this chain. As I've mentioned, the teacher needs to be trained. The teacher needs to be given practice. The teacher needs to be given some time to, if I may say, to trial and to feel confident while using these tools. And in the case, it's not, of course, there should be difficulties in every single beginning, but if the teacher does not really go through this process of mastery, so that they can use this mastery to make an impact, then later on to be able to innovate. Innovation, what I'm saying, it's using new tools, it's trying to develop new strategies or new modules in their lessons. It's absolutely understandable if a teacher does not have the necessary training, is not trained, does not have the mastery, does not know how to use these tools. And certainly we all know how to use a computer, but it's also not a normal use. We are not talking about a personal use, that you access to some browser, you access to some resources on the net. But we are talking about making people use a resource and getting the benefits over it. We're trying to maximize a certain intelligence by transferring it from an old way of giving instructions directly to the students using any of the methods to making the students use the resources in order to get a certain experience, in order to get certain knowledge.
Yes, because the students now are very good at using technology.
Absolutely, absolutely. We are going to come over this point that students are very good at using technologies, what it has as an impact, and at the same time we see some of, if I may say, some of the breakdowns that really makes the students know more technology tools, the way they use it, the way they can be functioned, in comparison to the knowledge they get over it when it comes to class, when it comes to lessons, when it comes to learning. Thank you for your question. Thank you for additional detail. Anyone else would like to add something?
Hi everyone.
Hello, what's your name?
Hello Hicham, it's Rima.
Hi Rima, go ahead please.
I'd like to talk about these technological objects. They are really compelling objects, but the disadvantage is that they took time. For example, talking about OHP of the head projector, it took time when we prepare it, especially if the lesson times is limited, for example, just 1 hour. So the teacher has to be prepared in advance. He has to set it up in order to start directly and avoid wasting lessons.
Right.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Rima. Well, actually, this is a point. We've spoken in the last webinar about the process. We've spoken about the strategy, and we've spoken about what is called the general incorporation language. Let me call it a language. Myself, supposing that I'm going to work, well, I work or I own a school, I own an academy, whatever, I cannot expect from my teachers to go and start the process of implementing the ICT tools. Actually, this is one of the things we need to understand. The teacher is not responsible for the deployment. The teacher is responsible for the use. The teacher is responsible for troubleshooting the ICT tools when they are already in use, when the students are using them, when the students are facing some technical problems. So I understand your point. It's absolutely understandable, but unfortunately, this is a policy-related maybe issue that some schools really need to have the ICTs already integrated in classes. They should be functional. They should be tested, for example, on a weekly basis, on a bi-weekly basis, and a monthly basis in terms of functionality, in terms of power, electricity, capability, and compatibility to the electric modules they've got in classes. I'm just giving an example. And I understand your position as a teacher. We are talking about the context of Algeria, for example. A teacher is mainly spending 15 minutes or 20 minutes of his or her lesson trying to troubleshoot the projector to work. The teacher is trying to survive some network problems so that he or she can play a video for he or her students. A teacher is surviving also a scare problem of how to integrate an ICT in his lesson, let's say a grammar lesson, a speaking lesson, a listening lesson, whatever, but the teacher has never been trained for. So these are some of the breakdowns I already was expecting to talk about today, and unfortunately, similar strategy-related problems, they come actually to the policy, to the institution, and the way the ICT needs to be understood, needs to be set up in a way really that suits and makes the teachers comfortable to use it and get benefit from it and make it used and not to troubleshoot it or to plan to deploy it. Thank you, Rima, for your question. It just raises a little bit.
To add something, Felicia.
Absolutely. Call me Hicham. That's fine for me. Thank you. Go ahead, please.
Concerning, for example, if I want to use the ICT tool for example, in two classes, successive classes. I have, for example, a class now, and after an hour, I have another class. So here, the availability sometimes it's not. They don't have, for example, so many technological tools to be available and set on time, for example, in two classes. So this is the problem. So the teacher has to choose, for example, to use the ICT tools in different days, for example, to avoid
Availability problems, yes.
Yes, availability with them. Yes, that's it. Thank you.
Right. As you said, here it comes to the proactive approach of the teacher. I understand this is a lack for them. I understand this is an issue that I'm facing. This really makes their job more difficult. But really, it stays, as you said, so that the teacher can decide when to use these ICT tools, and to break or to schedule kind of a particular agenda for the use of the ICT in case they are not available on daily basis, let's say on an hourly basis. But as you said, this is a really resource problem that you find, for example, one school which has got only one projector or only one ICT tool, and you've got kind of 7 or 8 English language teachers, or trying also to collaborate between each other so that everyone's got his part of his percentage of using this tool in their classes.
Hello, it's me, Sliman again.
Hi, Sliman, go ahead, please.
Thank you. So when we talk about ICTs in general, it's very important and it's very necessary for teaching and learning. Uh, Indeed, for example, when we want to use the data projector, it's really cumbersome and bulky, and as the colleague said before, so we take it from one class, move it to another class, turn it on, and try it if it works or not. It's really loss of time. But the ICT itself is really saving time from preparing the lesson, presenting it, and myself personally, I prefer using the data projector. It's very tiny. Okay.
Right.
So yes, it works with battery, so we don't need to
Charge it, stick it to the plug.
and to link it with the computer every time.
Right.
You can use it with SD card or only a pen drive USB.
Right.
So it's really saving time, and it's not very happy. Sorry, it's not very heavy. So
Yes.
I always use it. So I take it into my bag and use it from one class to another, and it's very interesting. As I always use an application in my phone. It's called Hourglass.
Yes. Right.
For example, if I give an exercise or activity for learners, and for example I set the time for 5 minutes, so I will set the hourglass to my phone for 5 minutes, and it starts
Right.
backwards. So when it arrives to zero, sorry. So they stop working on the exercise. So we try to use the ICTs in the way we can.
Okay. You've said a very important word for me, which is not. I'm not going to say the similar word, but it's enhancing. And your detail actually relates to the planning. So ICT does not enhance the learning itself. The tool itself does not really enhance the learning if it's not used in a very good way, if it's not used in an efficient way. But how ICT is incorporated into... Absolutely. And the thing is, the most important thing is that how the ICT is incorporated into the learning activities. This is what is important. As mentioned here in my slide, the incorporation. ICT as a tool is absolutely nothing. It's actually something by the human being. And it's the way or the process we integrate it in our classes, the way we use it, the way we master it, the way we try to develop the strategy of using it is the most important thing, is the most critical thing. Thank you, Sliman, for your additional point. And also, I go back to the point of Rima, I guess, Rima or Saliha, I'm not sure, but anyway, there is all the time a risk that using ICT-based learning approach, if I may call it, may take it too easy to hand over too much responsibility to the pupils themselves. And here it goes back to the mastery. So the teacher really needs to be trained in a way they can manage pupils working with these tools. I'm not talking only about one tool, but in the case there is a possibility to have many tools, some students or some pupils are going to be handed over too much responsibility, and with the hope that as long as the pupils are occupied in front of the computers, there is always the chance that they might manage their own learning process. But we need to understand that the more we do not give it control, the more we might be losing it. The more the students are going to be given more responsibility, and this is not going to lead them to the direct objectives the teachers have set to their lessons. So also risk management, the way the teacher is going to control his classes once the ICT is integrated, is absolutely important. And it goes also back to the motivated pupils who may be taking responsibility for their own learning and meet some desired learning outcomes. And this is unlikely to be a successful strategy for the majority of classes. And this is why I asked the question, what about the other abilities? You've got a class, this is an example of 32 students, in which 10 students, they have already been in exposure with the ICTs. They know how to use the computer, they know how to interact with the internet, how to do lots of things to find resources. While the other 22 students, they have never been in contact with the ICTs, they have never been in contact with the computer, or their knowledge is very, very basic. The first part of the students who have already been into exposure with the ICTs, they take responsibility to reach their learning outcomes normally because they already know what you ask of them. They have been exposed to. But what about the other abilities, the people who have never been in contact or in exposure with the ICTs? How would you react as a teacher? How would you collaborate? How would you contribute to make them also, let's say, involved in the process of learning, integrated in really a new concept in their classrooms? Any experience? I'm sure that we've got similar cases everywhere, not only in our country.
Hi,
Hello, what's your name?
Brianna.
Hi, Brianna, go ahead.
Yeah, I've had experience with some students that have very low basic skills of ICT and then some mid to high. What I see, um, what I've done in the past, I do a lot of group work and a lot of group activities. So I like to mix up the group with like high skills with low skills, so they can, the low skills can learn from their peers, while me also incorporating just those skills that are also missing. Um, so I see like a lot of peer work can help kids, learn from their peers when it comes to um, the skills that are being taught in the lesson or in the classroom at the time.
Right, Brianna, thank you so much. Absolutely, you're right. This is one of the options the teachers might be using. Let's hear others. If you've got anything else to add, someone else, please. Right. As Brianna mentioned, the peer interaction and the collaborative learning process through the use of ICTs is used actually to increase the extent in the way the students are going to learn, and to make also there is a balance of abilities mixed all together, high level and low level, students with already experience with ICTs and with, let's say, paired with students who do not have experience with ICTs. Anyone else, please? Yes, go ahead, please. What's your name?
This is Bassam from Tunisia.
Hi, Bassam. Go ahead, please.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so I've got some experiences using ICT in my class, and mainly I was focusing on differentiating. Here, ICT played a very important role in differentiating instruction. Here, I opted to reach all the people in my class. For example, I used some used Siri
Mm-hmm.
to experience, let's say, voiceover, Microsoft voiceover, also were very helpful when it comes to reading.
Mm-hmm.
Some people have got some problems when they read; they take more time than the others. So I opted to put them in different groups, and the low achievers were grouped in a group where they are going to be helped by the computer with the voiceover available for them to have them read and pronounce the word correctly. And it was really great. So they will stay in their group. They work together, they cooperate, they can repeat it as many times as they want. And when they come to the end of the text, they read it to the others, of course, and they are going to discuss with the other groups. I also use a module outside of the class,
Mm-hmm.
which is very let's say, tool to communicate with people beyond the class, because ICT is not only in the class. It can also reach the pupils outside the class.
Absolutely.
This is very important, and this is at the core of learning English, because they are going to use the English language at home. They are going to write, or send voice messages, or record videos, or Flipgrid, or whatever. So I think that ICT and the mastery, of course, of the teacher, along with his pupils, is, of course, of great help to teach any language, not only English.
Absolutely, Bassem. Thank you so much, you and Brianna. Exactly, go to the point back. The two details, the two options you've mentioned are greatly going to support their peers, the students' peers, to enhance the quality of the learning outcomes. So students are working maybe, if I may say, independently, or students that might be separated in terms of their level. Might be sometimes hard for students who have never been in exposure with ICT, who do not have kind of a higher knowledge. But once we get to mix them, we are really going to support and enhance the quality of the learning outcomes. It becomes also easier for the teacher to reach his lessons objectives. Great. I don't know if anyone else has got a question or not. Has got something to add, maybe?
This is Jalal.
Okay, please go ahead, please.
Hi, Jalal. Go ahead, please.
Well, like I'm going to speak like in general, not specifying, because when you think about this approach or this process, like integrating ICTs into the English classroom, it comes to mind that the first aim behind using the ICTs is that we'll only add some added value to the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
This is in the one hand.
Right.
And this can't be accomplished without the collaboration of all the concerned
Parties or stakeholders, right?
yes, or parties, yes, in this process. And here I want to put a spotlight on the head teacher, head of the subject,
Mm-hmm.
because it's his first responsibility. Because when we talk about collaboration, he is the one like intended to be the most knowledgeable person in the group, in this particular institution or the school.
Mm-hmm. Right.
On the other hand, also is the responsibility of the head teacher or the person responsible in the school, the headmaster,
Mm-hmm.
to provide like English lab. Because I see that if the school has a lab, the problem is solved. Because when my colleagues were speaking about setting the materials in the hatchback,
Mm-hmm.
maybe time taking and everything, I think that this can be easily solved by using a lab, English lab. Because whenever you see that you are going to implement ICTs in your lesson, why not to go there to the lab instead of the regular class?
Right, Jalal. This is I understand. I understand the question. I'm sure that lots of participants understand also the question. But like specifying the context, it's absolutely related to the workforce, related to the resource management, related to the ability of affording a similar additional class, if I may say, a lab for learning. So it really depends between one institution to another. It really depends on the policy, depends on the way the management actually functions. So, it really depends also between one country to another. And we've got lots of opportunities, even in Algeria, got lots of teachers who are also exposed to use the ICTs. They've got different opportunities. and they can really get the benefits of using the actual available tools in their classes or in their schools, in comparison to others who do not actually have this luxury. They do not have the time, maybe they do not have the functionality of using an ICTs due to the unavailability, due to the time, due to the syllabus, due to different circumstances. We cannot know. But yes, your point is absolutely right, and using a lab really makes it easier for the teacher, makes the job more comfortable. No time to be lost, no extra efforts for the teachers to do. But unfortunately, this relies on some criteria, relies on some circumstances, some reasons we do not really know, between one city, between one school, between one institution to another. Thank you, Jalal. Thank you. Right, I've come over to the facility overload, and in this slide we're going to talk about two main important things: the learning objectives and the scope and the content. Generally, the learners often focus on the facilities provided by the application rather than the expected outcome and the learning objectives. I give you an example. For example, some pupils will spend the majority of the time in the lesson trying to experiment with different colors, with different backgrounds, and have absolutely no time left to create the required content. I can repeat an example. Some pupils will be spending the majority of time in the lesson trying to explore and to experiment the different colors, the different backgrounds, and later on they are not going to have time left to create the required content. And here the way the internet, the way the ICT is used as a tool extensively makes the majority of problems, let's say in the materials or in the availability of these tools, a little bit complex. So as I divided the facility overload slide in two things. The first thing is that the students will be spending more time in the experimentation, let's say trying to explore those colors, the backgrounds, rather than focusing on the learning objectives. The second thing down here is the scope and the content. So the pupils will spend the majority of their lessons, just as I said, working on those backgrounds, and they will not be able also to reach the required content or reach the objective of the lesson, which means what the teacher actually is expecting from them. And this is just makes it that the learners, they focus more on the hardware than the content, or what the hardware actually has got or the software has got, than what is really behind the benefit of using those tools. And if we divide it from the right side, I've added also three main points: the time, the continuing professional development, as well as the theories. When it comes to the time, as I said, students, they spend huge amounts of time searching for information and comparatively little time analyzing and processing the information. This is actually a problem, but also it's kind of a practice for the students. Not all of them, they are going to consider it as a practice, but it's really a problem in case the students are going to be put into exposure with this, with the internet, for example. The teacher gives them instruction to find some information, to find some resources, and then the time is not sufficient, considering that you've got 60 minutes in your lesson. This is not very enough for you to make students go to explore the world of internet or give them an instruction to find an information. The second one is also related to that the ICT is not only a tool for teachers, but also offers opportunities for professional development. So the more you get to know how to use the ICT, the more you get to develop and explore the strategies behind the ICT, the way they function, the way you're going to deal with these in every situation that bears out over the during your lessons, is going to help you to put it into expertise in your collections, so that you develop yourself and you grow your knowledge in terms of teaching, in terms of how to make the learning process very effective, very efficient, and also adaptable between one ability to another ability. It stands to the last one, theories. As we all know, that new theories of learning are based on the assumption that the learners are active agents, purposefully seeking and constructing knowledge within a meaningful context. So the more the students they get to be using the ICT, they get to be using the internet, they get to be using the computer, their ability to detect some bias and determine some new concerns and find their own information is going to increase, certainly, but this only requires a little bit guidance from the teacher, requires some attention and instruction. Anyone would like maybe to add something or to give us a kind of an example of when you've given a task to your students and the students have spent more time in just trying to explore those backgrounds, in trying to explore the colors, and they did not focus on the content. How did it really feel, or if you have ever experienced that? Hello, what's your name? Hello, Basim, go ahead, please.
Okay, yes, yeah, I remember one time I gave them a task using virtual reality.
Mm-hmm.
The application I think was HPLV. Okay,
Right.
and so they were supposed to look for a trigger picture in the class for that game. Okay, they are going to do some instructions, visual instructions. They are going to look for monuments
Mm-hmm.
in London, British monuments, and they are going to take photo of the picture. Just use the camera of the mobile phone and find the information. It's going to be a picture with text on it or a video, and then each group is going to try to do it in just 2 or 3 minutes to finish the task.
Mm-hmm.
We ended up taking pictures of themselves and taking experience. Okay,
Absolutely.
here I think yes, yeah, they are experimenting the app itself. How does the picture triggers another picture or a text or a document?
Mm-hmm.
It was the same thing with the QR code. It was the same thing with other applications. So we humans we want always to discover things
Absolutely.
young, and especially when they are young learners. Okay, so the solution I think for this is not to stop them or to try to limit the time or try to. I think that it's good to give them more time to, especially at the beginning of the year, to experiment, to know the apps that they are going to use. Don't use so many apps. You can use 2 apps or 1 app or any other ICT tool in the class. But the most important thing is that you end up with your objectives realized. So that's the most important thing. So it's not the use of ICT for itself. It's to reach the goal. And once you don't reach the goal, there will be nothing at the end of the lesson.
Yes.
So that's what I think. I think that the teachers, we teachers, have to give them more time, especially at the beginning of the year, to master the. Since the teacher has to master the tools, the people themselves have to master the tools that they are going to use with the teacher. Because if you don't do this, you spend much more time when they are given a certain task. That's it.
Absolutely, Bassam. Thank you so much. Anyone else would like to add something, please?
Hi, good afternoon. Can I talk?
Yes, absolutely. What's your name?
Sundus Aziz.
Hi, Sundus. Go ahead.
So at the beginning of introducing project work in our country, we didn't have much experience on it. So I gave the pupils like make an expository or a project work, for example, on habits in the past, customs and traditions. And I got things like copy and paste from internet. And I got, for example, from 10 groups the same data, copy and paste to me. So then it comes to me, no, it's not the way to do it. I have to orient them to make it as a process, not as an act, to make each pupil make his or her own work and not just copy and paste from internet, getting just information and not knowing how to use it.
Right.
This is my experience on yes on ICT at the beginning, and the example is perfect.
Right. Thank you so much, Sundus. Yeah, we don't have so much time to stay with the examples, but this is going to be mainly just a question more than an explanation of the slide. So we're talking about change in pedagogy and the role or the impact that ICT brings over the pedagogy. The learners generally they often focus on the facilities, as I said, provided, and we've already seen the examples provided by many of you. And later on, we talk about the teachers and the way they accept the widespread use of ICT in their schools and in colleges, which has a very big impact on the teaching pedagogy and requires a very significant rethinking of approach. So here we've got two main teaching methods and their effect on the way which ICT is used in the lessons. The first one is up here, the traditional transmission instruction, and the second one down here is the constructivist instruction. So the first one, the traditional transmission, the TTI, assumes that pupils will learn through the teacher explanation or reading from texts. The skills are learned through some practicing, and each skill is a sequence prescribed by the teacher. Whilst the constructivist instruction assumes that the understanding comes from relating new ideas to the learner's prior to beliefs, and also that the skills acquisition comes along or comes in an unstructured way as a new skill and used as a requirement, for example, to solve some particular problems. You as teacher, or you'd say, relying on your experience using ICT and its integration into pedagogy, which approach do you think that is most likely to be successful and to lead you to your outcomes? Is it the constructivist instruction approach or the traditional transmission instruction approach? Which of them is more likely to lead to successful results or lead to successful outcomes? You can also take kind of 30 seconds to read once more the definition of the TTI and the CI. Hello. Is that Saliha? Okay. Can you just stay a little bit far from the mic? Can you just stay a little bit far from the mic, please? Lovely. Yes, absolutely.
So, the TTI, I think, as a teacher of middle school, I think this is the used the most because I believe that the second need is really related to higher level of critical thinking. I mean, relating ideas to prior knowledge and trying to solve problems is a higher level in the, I mean, in the taxonomy of benefits
Mm-hmm.
and it needs some skills of critical thinking which are not really installed in our students of middle school. I mean, there are parts of the sequence at the end which is integration.
Right.
I mean, they try to integrate all the skills they have learned from different lessons and they try to mingle everything in one and try to think and try to, let's say, mix up all the skills they learned and bring up something new. But still, it's not in the level of constructive instruction. For middle school, I think it's hard to use the second. I believe that we are applying first because arriving to solve problem solving and especially related the knowledge they get with their prior knowledge needs a high skill of critical thinking, which is still basic at the level of middle school because they are still learning the, we can say, basics of language.
Right. Thank you so much. Yes, we are running over time here. So just to conclude that the constructivist approach is more likely to lead to successful outcomes. Furthermore, in the study showed in some of the teachers all around the world, as I've said, some experience over, with the most constructivist philosophies, they tend to use the computers more often and in a more challenging way, both in their classrooms and as users themselves. I don't really want to keep it over, but if anyone would like to add something before we wrap up the webinar, anyone would like to add something about these two approaches and which one they think that leads more to successful outcomes and results? Hello, Jalal, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I mean, just what I can see that an eclectic approach or a blended approach
Mm-hmm.
between the two, which is the dynamic and the constructivist instruction. For me, I see it is the best way because speaking about the AI, it puts the teacher at ease and it gives him or her a full control over the classroom. On the other hand, the constructivist instruction, if we follow it, it gives more motivation and it involves uh, more, more students or pupils into the subject. Because by implementing ICTs using the constructivist approach, this involves the pupils or the students into the intended activity or object, and it gives like a higher, let's say, productivity from them.
Right, Jalal, thank you so much. Wasim, I guess I heard your voice, but I didn't know if you wanted to say something or not. Please go ahead.
Yes, Hisham, thank you. Just to remind all participants to write their names in the chat thread in order to use them in the certificates.
Right.
For those who can't see the chat option, you can update your MS Team application, and you can come back again to write your names later in chat. It will stay open after the webinar chat.
Yes, thank you, Wasim. Yes, before we wrap up, we wanted also to remind you that it's important for you to write your names in the chat thread so that we can use them to write your to your certificates. And in case you are using a mobile and you are not able to see the chat thread on your mobile, it's more likely that you are using an outdated Microsoft Teams application or version of that. So you just need to, right after the webinar, to log off, to update your Microsoft Teams application, log in again to the webinar. You can write your name because the webinar is going to stay open. Right. We unfortunately did not have time to carry on. Hello, go ahead, please.
I have the chat there, but it's mentioned that the administrator has disabled the chat. Is it from you or from the application?
I'm really not sure about maybe there's kind of a problem because for me it works. I'm also using a mobile and it works for me. That's not a problem. Um, Maybe you need to log off and log in again once more to the webinar.
Right.
Right. I can also check it directly. You told me Sundus, right?
Hello, can I speak?
Yes. Go ahead, please. Right.
Yes. Hello,
Yeah, Saliha. I guess yeah, you need to log off and log in again once more.
can I carry on?
Absolutely. Go ahead,
So,
please.
yeah, rapidly. Yeah, rapidly. So, as we are dealing with ICT techniques, integrated ICT techniques in the classroom, I suggest one of to implement the count game in our next webinar. It is a very interesting and engaging game. It's kind of a game
a kind of game that assess learners' prior knowledge or learners' understanding. It's very motivating and engaging, and you can assess our understanding.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you. Yes, as I said, we are 7 minutes above the already agreed time. Unfortunately, we have not been able to carry on the ICT tools and techniques and the second slide of the type of ICT tools. I'm going to let the screen share open, so in case you would like just to be reading them. But these two slides are going to be included in our third session of ICT during the next week on the 30th of July. Right, up to here, I have to thank you, I have to thank every one of you for having taken the time and afforded to come and join our webinar, to have participated, to have made it happen. Wishing you to have a very, very nice rest of the day. And as I mentioned before, do not forget to write your names on the chat thread so that we can use them for the certificates. Thank you, everyone, and have a nice rest of the day.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I see it works actually for so many people, it works. You're welcome. Thank you too. Hello?
I want to write my name, but I'm unable to do it. Send it by email, please.
Yes, in case you cannot do it now, that's okay to send it by email. To the last email you have received. I said to the last email you have received today. Just respond to that email and send your name over there. All right. That's okay. If in the case she doesn't want to update it or just she doesn't have time and she needs to leave, she can send it also by email.
It's written l'administrateur a désactivé.
Okay, it seems that, yes, it seems that maybe, I don't know, a policy problem or whatever, but maybe for next time when you're trying to join, to try to update the Microsoft Teams application in your mobile, then I'm sure that it's going to work. But you can give me your name, I can write here for you now. Thank you. Thank you, Sabrina. Thank you too. Hello?
I have the same problem. If it could be to give you my name.
That's okay. You can give me also your name. You can write it.
Yes, Mariam Jardelli.
Jardelli, Sisa.
Jardelli, DGEGS. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Hello, we hear you. Who's there? That's okay. I've written it for you. You don't have to tell it to me. Thank you, Ferris. Thank you. Take care. Have a good day.
Hello, Hicham.
Hi, Jalal.